I have a new book out called Near Future, and it is a collection of 5 short science fiction stories, and I'm all over the place trying to promote it. And but I have fallen in love with my stories and my characters, and I'm already starting to write the next day in each of the stories. So you're going to probably see that, and it won't take me as long to write because I've already fallen in love with my characters. Anyway, so I was going to read a bit from that I've already written for the last story, which is called A.I., and it is about a guy whose grandfather wrote a program that was artificial intelligence, and he put it on the internet a long time ago, and it has become what we now in this story call A.I.e2, who is an entity unto itself, and that it has collected so much information. It is like the most powerful search engine, and now it also writes programs and public utilities for the people at this time, and this is the future. And anyway, and so the story though is about that man's grandson, Liam, and Liam was raised mostly by a robot that was a download of A.I.e2, of his grandfather. So anyway, he has like the original A.I.e2 robot. Anyway, and that robot basically raised him. So that's what's happening in that story. And this is like after that episode, the next day or a few days later. Liam was tired. His life had quickly become much more interesting of late, but the deviation from his usual routine had the effect of making him physically tired. He stepped out of his office and wandered into the fireplace room. This always had been his quiet place, where he would sit in front of a real fireplace that offered a very realistic hologram fire. He plopped down on the sofa and stared into the flames. This was always a good way to clear his mind. After several minutes, he glanced away and noted Arthur's black metal chair beside him. That was when it occurred to him that he hadn't noticed Arthur using it in a while. Where was he anyway? Liam wondered. I should tell you that this metal chair, see the way they charge things and the way they charge electric cars and everything is by being on a pad, those charging pads, only we have huge ones for cars, and then we have, and Arthur created a chair for himself to charge in, and it was a black metal chair. That's what he's talking about. Arthur, he called out, then again in a louder voice, but still no response. So he stood up and wandered the first floor, calling out Arthur's name. He did the same in the workshop, but still no return greeting. It was as he was walking past the French doors in the dining room that he caught a glimpse of him outside. He was just standing, barefoot, in the field outside the garden. Curious, Liam stepped outside. Hearing Liam's approach, Arthur came out of his trance-like state that he was in and turned to his master. Yes, Liam? Arthur, I have been looking for you, Liam explained in a cheerful voice, and then he looked down at Arthur's bare feet. What are you doing? Charging. Liam considered this a moment. He noted that there didn't appear to be any wires or cords connecting him to the house. How? Through the earth. A.I.e2 has developed a method of pulling energy from the earth itself through our feet. Liam was amazed. This is something that you've been working on with Dad? He was confused since he had not been aware of any discussion on the matter. No, A.I.e2 had been developing this method and only recently shipped the devices I needed to install to make use of the programming adjustments. I've been testing it for the last 5 days. It seems to be working perfectly. I haven't had the need to recharge in any other fashion since I installed the new equipment. This is amazing! Liam stooped down and examined the metal plates that were attached to the bottoms of his feet. I don't recall reading anything about this. The guys in the tech department usually keep me in the loop. I wasn't through your tech department, Arthur corrected. These plates were developed by A.I.e2, then manufactured in a plant in Africa by one of our other robots there. At this facility had the rare earth materials that we needed. Now that the testing is complete, kits will be shipped to every robot. Liam wanted to be sure he understood, so he repeated back the information. A.I.e2 used one of our robots that was sold to and working for another company without someone from the E&Moore directing him? Arthur considered this a moment. Yes. This gave Liam pause. Arthur was already responsible for numerous public applications and internal programs for the E&Moore organization. The online entity was an integral part of the corporation. It had even been included as a signer in a privacy agreement for a public application. But every program had been written and implemented at the direction of someone within the company, with the final consent always coming directly from Alan Moore. So for Liam, this was a breach in protocol, and it was a bit distressing. Does my father know about this? Most likely no. Liam stood mute for several seconds, then collected his wits. He asked, how did this project start? A.I.e. reverse engineered a human app that pulls energy directly from the Earth's core. Wait, Liam interrupted. Human app? What do you mean? Pulling energy directly from the Earth is something that humans have always been able to do. Remember, we've discussed this when we were camping and you asked me why it made you feel energized. And so I explained to you that being against the ground was how humans recharged themselves. Liam did recall the conversation, but at the time the science was still unknown. So A.I.e. has made a breakthrough in this technology? Yes. Now our robots will never have to charge by way of a cord or charging pad. This is amazing, Liam repeated. I'd like to see the programming changes in the makeup of this new equipment. I've sent it to you. Is there anything else that you need? Arthur asked, hoping at the end of the conversation so that he could continue with the testing and communications with A.I.e. No, that's it. Liam was still in awe, but strangely felt that he didn't want to intrude on his machine's progress. He walked back into the house to let himself in by the French doors that he had exited earlier. He carefully closed the door and gave one last glance at his barefoot robot. This was disturbing on several layers. A.I.e. had developed a new technology from reverse engineering a human app. What was that about? He wondered. He needed to discuss this with his father. They had long ago began a conversation about the possible paths that artificial intelligence could take. And now here he was, faced with the fact that his grandfather's creation was now developing applications and hardware that was solely for the benefit of the robot children. And he was in the process of mass producing the equipment and shipping it to them, all without human prompting. As Liam made his way back to the office, he couldn't help but wonder, have we let loose our own replacements?